Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with veteran jazz big band leader Ed Palermo. We caught up with him in early May 2021 to talk about his latest CD, the Great Un-American Songbook Volume 3. He also opened up about the global pandemic and how he's been living through it, the world of jazz these days, hope for the future, and so much more. Ed is always a great interview and full of grand insights. Enjoy.
How you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good, man. How you holding up?
I'm doing great, man. I'm really looking forward to this interview, man. I'm honored.
Right on. I am looking forward to it as well. And I guess what we probably should start off with here is how crazy the world is and how this whole COVID thing has just kind of turned everything upside down. So, I want to get to your latest album, but I also want to just kind of, before we do that, kind of talk to you a little bit about how have you been doing over this past year, since last March? How's everything been for you dealing with this total upheaval in our world?
You know what? It's really interesting. I've been really making the best out of it. I mean, I'm sickened by there's no better way to put it than Trumpism.
Amen.
Because the people who won't get vaccinated, they, even though Trump got vaccinated in secret, these people for some reason have their reasons, like because they listen to Fox News too much, that they're not going to get vaccinated, which is only going to prolong this whole nightmare. So from that aspect of it, the way I see it is that and this is the only negative thing I'm going to try to talk about in this interview. It's like when it was really disheartening to me when the Trump administration were separating families at the border, and half of the country. Well, at the time I thought just 1/3 of the country. Now it looks like half the country either didn't think anything of it or even applauded it. And in the case of the evangelicals, using biblical justifications for it, for a clearly immoral, racist policy. And it was really disheartening just to see so many people in this country just, not be vicariously sickened by that. And now, with the people not getting the vaccine, I see it as cut from the same mold. It's just it's the stupidity of Americans these days. So that I'll answer that question. That's the only negative thing I'm going to say about it, because I've made the best out of this situation because and it's been a major it's been a major how should I put it, change in my life, in the sense that right now, the band hasn't been playing at all since March of 2020. My focus now is on playing the saxophone, playing jazz saxophone, which of course I've been doing for many, many decades. But now that's right now my main focus. That is until the band can start playing together again. But towards that end, about like in the beginning of the pandemic, I was practicing the saxophone, and then in the fall I realized, hey, I got this perfectly good backyard that I could have socially distanced and masked, except when I play the saxophone, jam session. And I did it all last fall until it got too cold in late November. Took 4 months off, and for the last month, I've been playing every day, playing jazz with people in my backyard. And that's is a major change in my life, because playing the saxophone has always taken a backseat to arranging. But since I haven't been able to, I haven't had the impetus to arrange that's for my band because we're not playing, then I shifted to the saxophone. So I started with the bad, and now I ended up with the good. So I just got done a jam session just now.
Oh man, that's beautiful. Those are the silver linings about all of this, and I think that's the thing. Realistically, that I think that we can all grab onto is that there have definitely been things that have reshifted our lives and our focus, but I think that there's been things that have been good, like what you're talking about. And I do want to just kind of stay on the COVID thing before we get to your album, and I'm wondering from your perspective, as we kind of start waking up and things start kind of opening up and gigs are happening, how do you see the jazz world emerging stronger and being in a better place prior to this pandemic?
Oh, well, you know what? Yeah, that's a great question. And obviously, I don't know, or anyone knows what the effect is going to be. Are people going to be so hungry for entertainment that they're, is it going to boost, attendance at these events? And I don't know. I sure hope so. I hope so. I will say this. This is an indication of what's going to happen. My neighbors, and kids, I have a very nice neighborhood, but I don't really know anyone. And I know a handful of people who live in my neighborhood, right? And since we've been playing, and I've been living here for over 30 years, so I've been these jam sessions. The neighbors love it. I mean, I haven't had one complaint, and all of them say it really brings light hearing this music every day. It brings light into their lives. So if that's an indication of how starved people are, for whatever type of entertainment they like, then I hope it is an indication. We'll find out. But I really don't know. I'm supposed to bring the big band back into Iridium, our monthly thing in Iridium, this September. I hope so. I'll believe it when I see it. You never know with how this COVID is going to go. I mean, are we going to be set back by, these people aren't getting vaccinated? I mean, look at India. I mean, things are looking better here, but who knows? I mean, who knows what's going to happen? So I don't know. I wish I could be more definitive for you.
Yeah, and no one really even knows. I mean, that's the thing. At the end of the day, it's really hard to kind of put your finger on it. But I think too, what are you hoping the audience realizes about this, about the power of live music when we return? When you get back on stage, we're in the audience. What kind of silver linings or epiphanies do you hope we have about that world of live music that we've been vacated from for so long?
I think I can only speak for myself. I can only speak for my audience. I know my audience real well as far as what they respond to. And I think, I mean, the first day back, I mean, I even know what song we're going to start with. I was just talking with my wife the other day, and, it'll be a Stephen Sondheim song from Sweeney Todd called God That's Good. And of course, I'm going to change the lyrics to reflect, COVID and how good it is to be, I mean, it's a very circusy song, and in a way, we're doing it as kind of a joke, but it's Sondheim, so it's brilliant, no matter what. But my whole thing, I don't know, have you ever seen my band live?
Man, unfortunately, no. I'd love to.
Okay. It's all about joy, and funniness, and so I think to try to answer your question, what's going to be like when we come back, I mean, I'm just going to just bring back that joy as much as I can. And it's one thing that's going to be different about it is that now that we have a new president, I won't have to do what I've done the last 4 years, which is do parodies and sometimes serious and sometimes just funny parodies of the ridiculousness of Trump, the Trump administration. Right now, the way I look at Trump is that he's irrelevant. sadly he's not. I mean, there's still, Trumpism is still alive and well. But as far as this man as a human being, he's irrelevant. I don't want to put him in the same way Stephen Colbert won't say his name. I won't do any more songs about him anymore because as far as I'm concerned, he's done. He's done, and so I hope I'm making this clear what I'm talking about. I mean, because during the Trump administration, what I did a lot was take, like, say, King Crimson songs, or I took one Bob Dylan song, and my brother and I changed the words to reflect just either how ridiculous Trump and his cronies are, or just how frighteningly evil it is. And I lost quite a bit of fans by doing it. But I didn't care because at the time, it was a small price to pay. Because number one, if you support this man's evil policies, then you're not invited to my party. I mean, I can't stop you from coming to my gigs, but don't buy my albums. Don't have nothing to do with me. Cancel me, because I don't want to have anything to do with you because you sicken me. You know what I'm saying? Now, I wouldn't go up in front of an audience and say those exact words, because I didn't want to be preachy. I just didn't. I just wanted to let them know in my song parodies how I felt, and if you can't deal with it, then don't come see my band, because I can't shut up when this racist shit is going down.
So talk to me a little bit about this recording, and I guess the thing I want to know before we get into the creative construction of this, it comes out during this pandemic in a very strange time in America. Talk to me a little bit about what it means to you to get music to people now during this time.
The album isn't political. I mean, I don't think there's anything political on the album at all. Except for the liner notes. I always do something funny about, how people have their, like, especially jazz artists, during the liner notes, they'll say, such and such plays Gretsch drums exclusively, and, Steve Vai plays, Daddario's guitar strings exclusively. When the musicians do that, I always do some kind of joke thing, and this time I wrote Ed Palermo soaks his reeds in hydrochloroquine exclusively. But anyway, that doesn't answer your question. So what was it like doing it in this time? It was no different than me releasing any of my albums at any other time. It was, I wouldn't even know how to even, expand on that.
Well, I guess the idea is that, I've been talking to a lot of musicians, and when this began, of course, no one knew that the world was going to shut down. And they released an album, and they couldn't do live music, and it was a problem. But now it's more of there's no other way to reach the audience, and getting this out to anybody that's out there that wants to listen to music, and people are listening to music more. Does that mean? I mean, is there any thoughts of that are going into this release?
No.
Okay.
We released the album. I pretty much know. I mean, I don't know all the people who buy it, but I kind of know the demographic in very general terms. Of people who are either Zappa fans or fans of my band, or both. But I don't think there was any really difference that I could see as far as how it was affected by COVID.
So talk to me about the actual construction of this album. What was kind of the overriding, kind of vision for this, and how you feel about the final product?
Oh, well, I'll answer the second question first. I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled with it. It has on it 2 mashups that I consider my best work, and not only my best work. The thing is, when you do mashups, you can do it to be clever, and you can do it to be funny, right? But you can also do it, combine different melodies from different songs, to the point where it's the end result is greater than the sum of its parts. And it's not that to do it to be clever or to make people laugh or chuckle. You want the end result to be something that's really uplifting. And the two songs, the two mashups that I did on this album was the Beatles' "Fixin' a Hole" from Sgt. Pepper and Frank Zappa's "Let's Move to Cleveland." You know, when we've been playing this material for 2 or 3 years before we actually recorded it, and it's that one and my mashup of Frank Zappa's "Mojo" with Moody Blues, "Nice and White Satin." The same thing. It's whenever we would rehearse it, I would think to myself, "Oh my God, did I nail this one?" I mean, and not to brag, it's just that when the music becomes so great and spiritual that it's like it increases your adrenaline and it just hits your soul. And it's weird. I'm talking about my own music like this, but you know, like I said, every rehearsal, the first time we ever played it, especially when we started playing it live, I'm just thrilled with how that came out. Now, as far as the rest of the album, it's what I love about it, and I've been doing this in my last several albums, and that is, like, if you go see us live, we play nonstop, you know, or we'll play in like an hour-long set, or hour 15-minute long set. They'll be comprised of 2 different medleys. So in other words, we'll go up there and play half hour, 45 minutes without stopping. No,
go ahead.
And so that's what some of my recent albums have been doing that, and that's what the new album, "Run for Your Life," the Great Un-American Songbook Volume 3, is like that. It's like a good half hour. The first half hour on that album is nonstop, and that's important to me because it's not just a matter of it being, you know, a medley. The segues from the transition from one song to another can be a spiritual thing in itself. It can be like, you know, and this I really got from Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa would since the first time I saw him in 1969, his live shows were incredible because he would be doing something and then all of a sudden, boom, he shifted into something else, and that shift in itself would make you go, whoa, and it was so powerful. And so when I do these transitions, whether it's live or on the albums, that's what I'm going for. You know what I'm saying? So that's basically that.
What do you ultimately want the listener to get out of this? Is this experience with this album any different from what you do? I mean, your whole idea is total entertainment, but is there anything else that you want the listener or downloader to glean from this album?
I mean, you know, entertainment is a very interesting word because, yeah, it is entertainment. But I think a very important facet of entertainment is the word profundity. No, it's probably a bad word. The profound aspects of the album. Like I was talking about that mashup of, like, say, Nice and White Satin and the Zappa and Mojo. That stuff cuts deep. You know what I'm saying? And it's just not a matter of. I mean, it can be joyous, but it can also be. It's touched something in you that creates feelings of melancholy. You know what I'm saying? So all that, I put that under the umbrella of entertainment. This album is a lot like my live shows. 90% of it is joyous, and then probably more than 90%, and that small percent gets into something that was meant to touch your, touch sadness or, like I said, melancholy. So in that sense, I think this is one of my best albums because for that very reason, it's joyous, but it's got those moments where you go, oh my God, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I think there's been a lot of that that's kind of happened during the creative process during the pandemic. I think things are going to change. I think people are going to dig in a way that they never did before. And as you mentioned before with Bob Dylan, I mean, that was his whole idea, was to put a mirror up to society.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
you know, it's almost an unavoidable thing. I was talking to someone earlier on today. We were talking about the pandemic, and he had such a refreshing thought. And it was the one thing about being older on this planet is that you knew no matter what, even in the beginning, that we were going to get over this. Like, we knew that this was going to pass. But there's certain people that, you know, just don't believe that because this is such a magnanimous thing. But when you've lived through things, you just know that one way or another it's going to pass. I mean, there was another person that was comparing this to getting a cancer diagnosis and then going through treatment and then going through all of those phases of getting out of it. I think that's what all of this is, and there's no way that you can separate that from art. You know, living is one thing, art's another thing, but I think those realms are probably, those arcs are going to probably blend together a little bit more now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? I hope you're right. I mean, you know, we'll find out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, we certainly will. So what do you miss the most about that world from, actually, before we get to this, I want to know, what was your last show like before the world shut down? What was that like? How did it feel now that you look back on it?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that because it was one of my favorite shows. It was my Shakespeare show. Now, I know nothing about Shakespeare, absolutely nothing. I wish I did because it would help my Jeopardy game and my crossword puzzle game. But I don't even remember why I wanted to do the Shakespeare show. Just the show was peppered with all these Shakespeare references that, of course, I had to look up because I knew nothing about Shakespeare. And of course, all of it's parody. You know, but I would take these like Zappa songs like "Tell Me You Love Me," and that was, you know, I played Romeo. I was Romeo. And when we did the Falcon show, Napoleon Murphy Brock was Iago from Othello, and so I wrote what I thought was a very, very funny dialogue for the entire show. Because what happens, we played Iridium and we played Falcon. I think Falcon came first. I think Iridium was the last show that we did before the pandemic, and it was, if I do say so myself, it was really cute, and the music was the band was just on fire. So yeah, that was our last show. And when I looked back on that show, there's a combination of sadness that, you know, because I know the next show I was going to do was going to be better, because everything just gets better. And but it's also just, I look back on the fondness because the show was so good and so funny.
What do you miss the most about that old world? And it doesn't have to be music specific, but there's things that I think we're all longing to get back to. What are you looking forward to the most?
Well, you know what it is? You know, like we play like Iridium once a month, and we play Falcon once every 2 months. And the one thing that I realized once everything shut down was how much of my time and energy and thought process went into these two gigs, my Iridium and Falcon. I mean, it was astounding. I had all this time on my hands, and that's when I just started practicing the saxophone like for 8 hours. And because I had all this time, I mean, and I'm lucky because I could still make a living teaching online. But I mean, like I said, I realized that putting these shows together, because what I have to do, I come up with the concept of the show, because every show is different. Not only the material that we do, but the concept of the show. Whether if it's like the Shakespeare show was one thing, and one month we did Captain Beefheart, and there's always that in the shows. But so a lot of thought goes into what I want to play, what songs I want to play, what the theme's going to be, and then I have to. If there's new music for me to write, I got to arrange it for my band, and then I have to rehearse that music for the band, because we were rehearsing at least 3 times a week, and just 2 hours of rehearsal, but and then we do the gig, and all of that. Now all of a sudden, I don't have to do that, and it was like I said, the main thing to answer your question was just I realized how much time it took to do all that. But the thing is, don't think I felt like I'm complaining. It was my life, and I loved it. And I told this many times, way prior to the pandemic, that this is the happiest time of my life, let alone raising my children. But those gigs, the Iridium Packet, those are the happiest times of my life. To go on stage and put a show together that's both musically outrageous but funny as hell, and to have people just laughing, with the funny stuff and just grooving with the music, and that was amazing to me. That there was no, just how much time it took, but I have filled that void with my jam sessions in my backyard, and I'm telling you, I do it every day. There's a jam session every day in my backyard. So, but when we start playing again, I'm going to try to do both. You know what I'm saying? Do 2 hours jam session in backyard, and then everything else is just getting ready for those gigs. We'll see if I'm able to pull it off or not.
At the end of the day, how do you see, I know you're hopeful that the fall comes around and things pick back up, but I want to know from you, how do you see kind of in the biggest epicenter of jazz in the world in New York and all these other places around the world, how do you see things unfolding? How do you see this all playing out to where we get to a point where it's like, you know what, jazz is back, life is back, things are starting to pick back up? Because we're seeing signs, but how do you see this kind of unfolding?
God, I don't know. I think I'm going to have to disappoint you with a non-answer, because I really have no idea. I'm just taking it as I'm taking it as it comes and jamming in my backyard. You know what I'm saying? But I think about what I'm going to, like I told you, I already know what song we're going to start off the next gig. And I tell you one thing, I really want to start going out and hearing bands more than I do. Not famous bands, in small jazz clubs that have great musicians, but will never become household names. You know what I'm saying? But I always get inspiration from just hearing other musicians. I didn't answer your question remotely, but I really don't know how to answer that.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. This time of being in quarantine has been big moments of self-reflection. What did you learn about yourself that you didn't realize before?
Well, like I said before, I mean, as far as just the practicality, pragmatic thing, I mean, I'm just focusing my musical focus is now jazz saxophone, and that will change back into orchestration as soon as we can go back into the clubs. Well, one thing, I think this predates the pandemic, but one thing which is an epiphany for me, is that every musician wants to become famous. They're either rich or famous or both. But every musician, you grow up and you listen to music and you have these musical heroes, and they're all famous, and that's what you want too. I mean, a lot of musicians won't admit it, but that's, everyone wants that. Now, I was no different until I got older, and I realized that I'm already living my dream. I mean, like, I have no desire to be on TV You know what I'm saying? I playing in front of these small audiences at the Iridium and the Falcon. That's it for me. As far as performing, I have no desire to do anything more than I'm doing right now. I don't want to go on the road. Going on the road means that takes me away from writing music. You know, the thought of sitting on a bus for hours on end, forget that. I hate that. I'm 66 now. You know what I'm saying? But I'm still performing. The only difference is that I make no money at it. But on the other hand, when you make money, and you're paying the guys in the band, you know, a living wage, there's a certain responsibility that goes with that I just don't want to have anything to do with. You know what I'm saying? I do these gigs and you know, they pay you know, overall, I mean, just not a whole lot of money. But like I said, I think this realization that I am so lucky, I'm so lucky to be living my dream now, that it's, you know, so I don't know, this epiphany, like I said, predates the pandemic, and I guess the pandemic hasn't changed that. You know, but of course, it's changed it in the sense I'm not able to do it, I'm not able to perform. But, you know, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We'll be back in the clubs, and then I'll be, you know, back in, you know, just like a pig in slop, you know, just in my element, as happy as a lark. Yeah, so another non-answer by Ed Palermo.
No, you've been answering the whole time. Yeah, no, it's been great. What are you surprised? And I kind of want to end this on a positive note. I mean, I know what's been negative about this, but what are you surprised that humanity has done well during this pandemic? Like things that we actually did that you didn't think were going to be something that was possible, because there's been a lot of negative things. I mean, the whole world dealt with the pandemic, but America had to add a class war and racism on top of it. Like, we can't just stop at, like, one thing that's massive. It's like we always have to heap it on. But I guess those things were always hedging prior to this. It just was the car needed to be thrown over the edge. So what do you see as being positive things that we've done? And that could even reverberate through the music and jazz worlds collectively.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you see this as positive. I mean, but it's never before have we had such a clear, discernible division between evil and good, and stupidity and intelligence. So one thing is, I do see this as a good thing, that I know that I don't want to have anything to do with the stupid evil side. I don't want them in my life, you know. It doesn't matter to me whether they come and hear the band or not, or buy my CDs. Because one thing, I don't make any money off these CDs anyway. Everything I do is a financial loser. So I can say that, and I know I'm not going to be hurt financially because it's a big money loser anyway, what I do. But just shows you how much I love it. I do see that as a positive thing. That sounds negative. I mean, I know that there are certain relatives I have that I don't really. I'm so disgusted with them that I don't care if I see them or not. Thank God I'm not married to like a Trump supporter, or you know what I'm saying, most of the people, 99.9% of the people that I love are not Trump supporters, so I'm lucky that way. But I think it's good that we see that this clear distinction between right and wrong. So that I do see that as a positive thing, as far as what people to avoid. But as far as anything else, I like to think that people are going to appreciate the arts more. People are going to appreciate a good conversation more, face-to-face conversation, and not just stay home and watch Netflix all day long. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully that, we won't be, people are just going to be dying to get out in some way or another. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm hoping for. So, there you go.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think that on the flip side of that, too, when we look back on, especially when this thing started and ramped up and kept going, it's like, if we didn't have arts, we talked all about frontline people. We talked about nurses and doctors and all of that. And I'm not cheapening any of that. But if we didn't have art, if people couldn't listen to music, if they couldn't look at visual arts, if they couldn't indulge in TV and film, this would have been a dark, dark time.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
So I think what you're saying can be amped up a little bit more, that I think we need to start looking at the arts as a viable cultural thing that is necessity. I mean, you look at Europe, for instance, and when you look at especially jazz and the way they revere it, if they get paid, and a lot of these people, they hold it in high regard. It's a cornerstone of their world, and hopefully, our country can start looking at that more and more and seeing how vital it is, especially with this new administration.
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
But at any rate, Ed, hey, thank you for getting back with me. It's great to catch up with you. It's always refreshing. Good luck with the album and the return to regular life.
Yeah, man. I really enjoyed this, man. I'll talk to you later, okay?
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and band leaders in L.A., New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Ed for his time, music, and class. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.